Well, hey, welcome to or back to Gardenish. Today we are going to check out our corn. We have sweet corn that has been growing this season. First time I've done it this way. Every other time I've grown sweet corn, it never worked out. I don't know how that's possible because I am a Southern Illinois girl and I thought it was like embedded in our blood to be able to grow corn. So let's see how we pulled this off this year, and let's go over some tidbits and information that you need to know about sweet corn to see exactly if you're going to be successful or not. So let's go over this and let's check it out. Here's our little corn patch. Something that's happened this year was we've had multiple storms and I have had to prop up my corn stalks because they have fell in the weather. And you can see I've still got some that are falling, but I was able to unprop them as they became stable again. And now we are going to see what we've got going on. All right, folks, let's check this stuff out. We've got some stalks that look really good here. So things to look for. Well, first, a little bit of tidbit about sweet corn. So this part is where your corn is, obviously. I'm sure you all know that, but if you don't, here you go. This is where your corn's at, is growing in here. One of the things that needs to happen is this tassel up here, this tassel has to pollinate this silk. If it doesn't pollinate the silk, then you're going to get a funky ear of corn that's not completely kerneled out. You're going to have some different things going on. Smut is a whole different ball game. That's a delicacy. I have produced corn with smut. Smut is when you have those real bulby looking kernels and they look so gross, but it's actually a good thing to eat. I believe it's a Mexican heritage that really enjoys it and is good at producing phenomenal dishes with it. But I've never done that. I've produced smut one time and it freaked me out because I didn't know what it was, and from there, I quit growing corn because that was all I was producing. Now that I know what I know, I'm sure I will never have smut again with that. But these are some good sized corns. We can see on this guy up here, there's some really good kernels going. So what I want to do, all of these tassels have turned brown. That's what you want to look for. You don't want to have any kind of wet silk left. That's one indication that your corn's ready to rock. Now, before I pick any of this, I am going to tear apart some of my casing here. Okay, this guy looks like my tip is not done or it's overdone. I'm not sure exactly what that is. It may have gotten eaten by worms. I don't know. But if you look at the rest of this, it's beautiful. So that tip, I'm going to pick this piece of corn. All right, let's pick it off. All you do, sorry, there's a train coming. Basically, once you see that you have had some good production here, the next thing you want to do, you want to take one of these kernels and pop it with your fingernail. And if the juice that comes out is kind of a white, like an opaque color, you're good to go. If it's clear like water, you are not good to go. That means your corn is not ready. So, all right, that one, hold on, I didn't pay enough attention. It's got some color to it, so we're gonna go ahead and pick this one. It tastes good too. It's sweet. Let's do it. Let's pick it. Yes, these are loaded down with buggies and ants and gnats and all kinds of stuff, but that's what gardening is all about, is nature, right? And dealing with the problems like that. So we're just gonna rip it off, which I went way too slow. There we go. First ear of corn, kids. We'll throw this in our basket and we'll pick a few more. Okay, this one, it's got a decent size to it, but when I open it up, if you look at that, it is not nearly ready. None of these are at all yellow, and we are just gonna close it right back up to try and keep the buggies out, keep it together, and we're just gonna let that one go for a little bit. So far we have 2 ears of corn that we were able to successfully pull out of here. These ones are all too little. I'm gonna let these keep growing, and we're gonna check these 2 out that I've got, and we'll go from there. Let's go back around. Let's check this one out. This one's bigger. Where'd I go? Here it is. This thing. All right, he's bigger, but not quite ready yet. They're still growing. I'm gonna close her back up. Button it up, Buttercup. All right, let's take these 2 back and we'll see what we've got. All right, here we go, guys. Let's shuck this piece of corn and see what we got. Just gonna pull it all. Oh my gosh, this looks amazing. Look at this corn. I grew this corn. This is beautiful. Wow. Holy cow. Just a little bit off the top. That might have been, maybe it wasn't totally ready to pick, but according to everything I am supposed to try, it looked ready to pick. That could be some buggies. That could be anything. But you know what? If I had more corn right now, I would take a bite of this corn. I don't have more corn right now. I've got 2 corns, and these are going to be dinner tonight. So I am going to call that a success. And I'm going to show you here a little bit closer up at what it looks like. So when we pop this, here. There we go. Let's pop this kernel right here. Maybe. See that? That's good corn. All right, there you go. Let's see what this one's doing. You know what? I'm looking at this. I bet this one could have went a little bit longer, because if you look at the top, you can see where it's starting to form. I bet I just picked it too early, but that's okay. There's plenty out there, and these will be dinners tonight, so this will be awesome. Just cut that part off. Let's see. Yep, it's white. We're good to go. Neat. Okay, let's have a little porch talk now. I want to tell you guys a little bit about sweet corn and field corn, some of the differences, and what you need to know those differences are. So you saw how I was able to check the silk on the ear, and as long as it was dried out, that's one indicator. It gets kind of matted, almost like dirty hair that gets matted together on like a dog that's getting like almost dreadlocky. It'll get matted and it'll kind of stick down to that ear. And as long as there is no visible silk that is not brown and dried, that's one indicator that you're good to go. The second one is always do that test. You always want to peel a little piece away, check those kernels, and do the pop test. Pop that kernel, make sure it's opaque, a little white, thicker liquid that's coming out of there. If it's watery and clear, you don't want to take it yet. That just means it's not going to be at its prime. It may still taste good, but if you let it go longer, you're going to get more production. You're going to have bigger kernels and more kernels, and everything is going to be just what it's supposed to be, sweet corn. I think the other thing to know is I did not fertilize this ground whatsoever. This was old garden area. I had my pallet gardens out there. This is ground that's never really been touched. It had some weed barrier on it years ago that's now disintegrated and gone for the most part. But what I did was I took my garden weasel, which is one of those, like, it looks like a rake with little tines, round tines on it, and you just roll it around. If you're about my age, which, by the way, I just turned 45 this week. Happy birthday to me. If you're about my age, you'll remember the garden weasel commercials. And they were always, seemed to be elderly folks using them in their yard somewhere. They're great for looser soil, anything that's been disturbed before. It's a great find. If you find one at a flea market or a yard sale, pick it up for those couple bucks because it's going to save you some time. I don't have a tiller because I don't do in-ground gardening, so there's no reason for me to have a tiller. Anyway, a garden weasel did great. You don't need that. You can just use a shovel, loosen up your ground, a good rake, just something to be able to plant those seeds. Now, when I did put those seedlings in the ground, because I bought this, let me start over. I started corn from seed. It got wrecked in my greenhouse catastrophe, so I ended up buying this peaches and cream corn from a local farm store. I bought an abundance of it because it was cheap at the time and it looked really good. So that's what I put out there. Did great. I also staggered my rows out there, and that way the corn would basically be able to touch hands, is what we like to say. It was close enough to grow, tight enough that it's going to be really hard to get through those. I would never be able to get through those rows, but they had enough room to grow. And my only problem this year was, I think, my block. I wish I would have planted more in an area, but we saw by what I just pulled out that we've had good pollination, and I didn't find any worms yet, which is great. There were no major bug issues, no major worms. The smut corn hasn't happened. I'm glad that didn't happen because I don't know how to prepare that, and I'm not prepared to be able to prepare that. So that was another thing. The garden weasel did great for me. And when I planted that stuff, when I planted that corn out there, all I did was I added some garden soil to the ground so it would have a little more nourishment. One thing I didn't do, I didn't fertilize. I did not fertilize at all this year. Probably should have added some nitrogen to that ground at some point this year during this season. I didn't. I will remedy that ground for next year if that's where I do this again. Otherwise, I'm going to do it in a different area, and I will tackle that beast when that time comes. So nitrogen is a big thing. They love their nitrogen. They are very, very good nitrogen uptakers. So you need to make sure your soil has good nitrogen. And I think that's really all I can give you informational-wise. Now, field corn. Big difference. You saw how short that sweet corn was. Sweet corn is shorter than field corn in the grand spec of things. Field corn is going to be every bit of, I don't know, what is it? 9 feet tall, 7, 8. I mean, I've seen them as tall as my roof, my lower roof on my porch. I couldn't get them onto my my porch posts because they were so tall. I had to cut them down at the bottom. They get tall. And another thing about field corn is meant for animal consumption, for ethanol production, those sorts of things. I'm going to tell you right now, don't eat the field corn. Even when people say it's ready to eat, yes, it'll taste good, but guess what? You don't know what that farmer used on that ground to fertilize that field corn. I know what a lot of them use, and I don't want to eat that corn. A lot of them use Class B biosolids, which comes from your sewage treatment facilities. And it meets a criteria that is established by the EPA. And so it has to meet this criteria in order to go on the ground for production of grains and different animal feed. It's not meant for us. I've read some articles and I have watched some different speeches regarding the biosolids and the connection between it and possible chronic wasting disease that I know that the conservation department in Missouri, they want to keep track of that disease. And whenever you hunt and kill a deer, you're supposed to report that. So one thing I do know is that there is a connection between the Class B biosolids and chronic wasting disease. And that tells me I'm not supposed to eat that product, because Class B biosolids are great for the process that those grains and everything are going to go through, but they're not meant for initial consumption. And eating field corn straight from the field is not intentional use for that corn. So please refrain from doing that, just for the safety of your own health. Not saying it's a bad thing, but you don't want to do it continually. It's just one of those things that I've learned over the years, being a professional water and wastewater operator. We do things in our field, and there's a reason we do things, and there's a reason we don't. And there's a reason we don't eat the produce that comes from those fertilization processes. Another thing, we don't eat our tomatoes that grow out there on the influent bar screen racks. We don't do that. We don't eat the tomatoes that grow in the drying beds for our sludge. You don't do it, because there's pathogens in there, and that's bad for us. So, and bad for our health. Anyway, there's a little bit of info for you. Try not to eat the field corn. It might be cheap and easy, free for you to grab. If it's your field, don't do it. It's just not, it's not meant for that intention. And we need to use it wisely and grow your own corn. If you want corn, grow sweet corn. Like I said, peaches and cream. That's the corn I have out there. The other thing you need to know is you can plant multiple varieties of corn all within proximity of each other. But if you do that, just remember that tassel is going to wiggle. And when it wiggles in the wind, it's going to drop its pollination production into the corn silk. And it may land on its own corn silk, or it may land on one that's 4 feet away from it. So you may get a cross-pollination with your corn and have something that turns out really amazing, or have something that turns out absolutely horrible. And if you want something that's going to be consistent and you're going to know exactly what you're getting at the end of the season, try not to put multiple different types of corn out there. Just use one variety. That's that peaches and cream. That was it. I bought that intentionally. I could have bought 3 other types of corn, but I didn't, because I didn't want that cross-pollination, and I wanted somewhat of a production this year and see how it did. So I'm glad we could sit and talk about this stuff. If anybody has any info regarding corn that I didn't touch base on, please feel free to throw it in the comments. We're helping each other out here, and hopefully I was able to help you guys out. And I appreciate you all for watching and paying attention to what I have to say. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Don't forget to find me on Facebook. I don't do Instagram and any of that stuff because I don't have time for that, but I definitely appreciate you guys being here. And I want to say thank you, and be safe, and have a great rest of your summer. It's the last week of July. It's almost August. School's going to be starting soon. And thanks for hanging out with me on my porch, the rest of my porch talk. So everyone, be safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.